Hi, I'm Kurt Hollenbeck, and I am one of the founders of Microbiome Weight Loss Systems. I'm going to do something you will rarely ever see. I'm going to talk about one of my competitors first, and I am going to tell you how unbelievably great their work is. I think you have to admit that you don't see that every day. There is a super 60-minute clip you can watch on YouTube. It's just over 13 minutes long, and I highly recommend that you watch it. The segment is titled The Bypass Effect, and it is about gastric bypass surgery and the unbelievable effects it has on its patients. Please note, this is important. This clip is about gastric bypass surgery, not laparoscopic band surgery, which just shrinks the stomach but doesn't bypass part of the small intestine. In the 60 minutes clip, they are talking to 8 patients. Before the surgery, all had diabetes. One lady said she was giving herself 8 to 9 insulin shots a day. I had no idea you would ever need to give yourself that many shots. I figured one and you're good to go. All 8, including our shot lady, were cured of diabetes in days. Still morbidly obese, but cured of diabetes. A supposedly incurable disease, and this wiped it out in days. 5 of the patients had sleep apnea, all cured. One patient, himself a doctor, said that he no longer took hypertension medicines, cholesterol meds, and of course his diabetes meds. He said he was totally off medications, and you see a lot of heads nodding in agreement. Just a super clip. So why am I telling you about a procedure that my company doesn't offer? Well, first off, just because I'm a great guy. Okay, you're not buying that one, huh? Okay, well, mainly it's because what I'm going to be telling you about is the gut microbiome, hence microbiome weight loss system, and how the gut microbiome can have such a broad range of effects on your health. The gut microbiome is basically the bacteria that lives in your digestive system. That's a very simplistic but functional understanding. What that 60-minute clip shows is that, yes, and arguably, something can have a powerful and wide-ranging effect on your health. I am telling about this procedure because of the research that it has spawned. It is that research that has given birth to microbiome weight loss system. Why does this procedure create all these effects? Bottom line, they can't say for certain, and they will probably never know everything. We like to think that the medical field knows almost everything. It is comforting, but the truth is they know a lot less about the body than they know. The operation of the human body is vast and extremely complicated. Change one thing, and it is almost impossible to know what all the ramifications are going to be throughout the whole body. That said, there is one thing that has become abundantly clear from the research, and that is that the microbiome is much more important than they ever realized. Truly, it has only been in the last decade that they have started to look at the whole microbiome, and not just the pathogens or the bad bacteria. What's more is that it makes complete sense that it would be something that is basically at the very foundation of our health, which the microbiome is, which would create all these effects. Before I go any further, let me share a little tidbit about the microbiome and your weight. My sister probably already thinks I've gone too long before sharing this. She calls it my hook, and it got her to become a client. If this doesn't clearly demonstrate how important your microbiome is to your weight, I truly don't know what will. If a genetic sequencing lab has your complete genome sequence and all your DNA, and that is all they know about you, they can predict whether you are fat or thin with about 60% accuracy. However, if a microbiome lab has a profile of your microbiome, and that is all they have, they can predict whether you are fat or thin with 90% accuracy. 90%. You don't have your microbiome right, you have a 10% chance of being thin. If you get your microbiome right and keep it right, you have a 90% chance of being thin. 90%. The microbiome is the key to getting your body to work for you. It affects the calories and nutrition that we extract from the foods, and it affects the foods that we desire. Believe me, these little buggers know what they need to eat to survive, and they will ask you for it in their own demonic way. So what you need to ask yourself is, do you want to be in the 90% group, or are you feeling lucky and think you can land in that 10% group? By the way, if you're already overweight, you've already got your answers to whether you're lucky or not. Not only is the microbiome instrumental in how our bodies uptake nutrition from the foods we eat and liquids we drink, but it also houses up to 85% of our immunity system. So if you're going to ask yourself, what could possibly be causing all these great system-wide effects? The microbiome is the most logical answer. And sure enough, the research shows that that is the case. So why haven't you heard about it? My answer to that has to do with the way the medical field operates, and most importantly, who actually does the research. Most of this wonderful research is done through your taxes and great organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There are no marketing dollars with this research. These are not pharmaceutical companies. This research leads to information mainly, but not necessarily drugs. The pharmaceutical companies are doing a lot of research, but they have to find a way to monetize it. Narrow it down to a specific bacteria, or a specific enzyme, or a specific hormone. They need to create a pill or a drug for it. All I will say to you is good luck. And how long is that going to take? The truth is, they may never know how to narrowly target the microbiome, and if and when they do, it will cost you a fortune. However, there is something you can do, and that is to do a broad-based change of the composition of the microbiome. That is what the research shows happens after the gastric bypass surgery. Gastric bypass doesn't create a narrow change. It is a broad-based change in the composition of the microbiome, and that we can achieve today. And that is what microbiome weight loss system is all about. What's more, I think it is also what will put a lot of pharmaceutical companies out of business. That 60 Minutes clips I mentioned aired back in 2008. When you watch the clip, listen to what the doctor says about needing to change the guidelines for performing this procedure. That was 8 years ago, and most of you still had no clue what that procedure could achieve. I got this from the CDC's website, and it's the most recent numbers they had. In 2009, there were 68,000 amputations of lower extremities due to complications from diabetes. 68,000. Why on earth would you amputate a limb which will not cure the diabetes when you could have done a gastric bypass surgery when it was apparent that the patient was heading down the amputation path? It can't be that much more expensive to do a gastric bypass, can it? I've questioned a few people who had diabetes-related amputations, and the gastric bypass surgery was never mentioned to them. You will notice in the clip that one doctor had to go to Brazil so he could perform his procedure. It's sad, but you really shouldn't assume that you are necessarily getting cutting-edge information. The medical field can move glacially. The first paper written about these effects dates back to 1984, over 30 years ago. Don't think because you haven't heard about the microbiome that it's not the real deal. There are some very good books out there on eating for your microbiome, but unfortunately, none of the ones seem to be written by anyone who has a clue about losing weight and keeping it off. If all it took was to have the knowledge, we would all have been thin years ago. There is a complete denial from the medical field about how difficult it is to change your eating habits. The failure rate for changing your eating habit is between 95 to 98%, which is in line with the microbiome thing, being 10%. There are a few things more difficult than changing your eating habits. It is evident within the first few lines of weight loss book that is written by a doctor, and probably one who wasn't fat. I used to think it was because they needed to sell the book or program, but really, I think it's that they just don't have a clue. Here's an example from a pretty good book. I won't say the name, but I couldn't believe it was in there. They discovered that within a few days they began to lose their cravings for sugar, bread, baked goods, and other forbidden foods. Is there anyone here who believes you'll lose your cravings for your favorite foods within a few days? Really? Our program does a lot more than just change your diet, and I can tell you it took a lot more than just a few days for me. It was about 2.5 months before I could tell that it was really happening for me. To go into a grocery store and not think about getting a treat, to see a new candy or cookie or cake and not have an overwhelming desire to try it, to just naturally think about feeding my microbiome and realize that my tastes were changing, it took time. I would love to tell you how easy it is to get the microbiome changed and healthy, but anything with a 95 to 98% failure rate is not easy. Something so physically and psychologically ingrained in us as our eating patterns is going to take your total commitment. We supply some great tools to help you, but those tools still need your A game. There is just no way around saying it. For a period of time, learning to eat for your microbiome and getting it healthy is going to have to be one of the most important goals in your life. That doesn't mean you ignore your wife and kids and job. For the most part, what it means is that you will need to expend the energy to keep losing weight at the front of your mind. We have great tools to help you achieve this, but you have to be the one to use them. There are some great medications out there to help you while you are changing your microbiome. Phentermine is generally the first we utilize. Let me tell you something about phentermine. It is prescribed by over 70% of bariatric specialists. The doctors who specialize in weight loss for obese people utilize phentermine. There's a very important caveat to the medication, however. Medication is not the answer. Medication is a very useful tool to help you achieve your overall goal. We have phentermine clinics in our area like we used to have pain pill clinics. They hand out the phentermine with very little guidance. I went to a couple, and that is one of the big reasons I started this program. My sister and I both lost over 60 pounds with phentermine. We just thought it was the greatest thing. Then your body starts to adjust to it. It is why phentermine has not been successful at long-term weight loss. As a tool to help you on the path to changing your microbiome, it is perfect. The problem for my sister and I was that though we had lost a lot of weight, we did nothing to change our microbiome. Our diets were probably a little better, but for the most part, we just ate a lot less of the crappy food. When the effects of the phentermine started to wane, we were right back to where we started. Same old cravings, same eating patterns. On our program, long before the phentermine will start to wane, it generally is good for about a 5 to 6 month period, you will have a dramatic effect on your microbiome. I stopped using phentermine after my 3rd month. Even after the 2nd month, I had reduced to a half dose, which is completely different than the usual path that phentermine takes. You are usually looking to up the dose because, as noted before, your body's adjusting to it. And let me stress this one more time. Change is one of the most difficult tasks a person will ever take on. We are not hardwired for change, much less a change that has components of addiction thrown into it. Any change is difficult, but changing your eating habits is one of the most difficult things you can attempt. The failure rate speaks for itself. Seeing the difficulties and understanding them and planning for them is very necessary for success. Acting as if this is going to be a walk in the park is not going to get it done. Having said all that, let me say this. The research world has made unbelievable progress in almost every aspect involved in weight loss over the past decade. We bring the most cutting-edge tools to bear on this fight. The most important area, the real game changer in the battle, is of course the microbiome. And we will show you why it is so important to eat with your microbiome in mind. It is why at the end of 2 months on our program, you are so much better off than with other programs. Bottom line, our program is about much more than losing weight. The microbiome influences every aspect of your health. The microbiome is the key to getting your body to work for you. The microbiome can also be a lot of fun. There are some mad skills to learn and room for a lot of creativity in feeding the little buggers. Probiotic pills, pharmaceutical companies' answer, of course, are a poor second choice and are very, very expensive for what you get. Best to make your own. I will give you a hint. These little guys learned to eat long before there was refrigeration. We have attempted to look at every aspect of weight loss and create tools for them. While some may find this next topic touchy-feely, it is anything but. Researchers have made some wonderful insights into goal setting and goal attainment. We utilize a wonderful program called WOOP, Wish Outcome Obstacle Plan. Did you know that thinking positive can actually be detrimental to your achieving your goals? If you will take the time to understand how to utilize this tool properly, you will have an amazing asset with you the rest of your life. It is all about reaching your goals, not dreaming about them. We also have a daily app specially designed to aid in handling cravings. I think we can all agree that cravings are one of the biggest pitfalls out there. Cravings and special event days, they were death to me over the years. And I don't just mean holidays and birthdays. I also mean the unexpected special event days, when something really good or bad occurs. Those unplanned for events are a nightmare. They put me straight into my deserve role, as in, I deserve these donuts because that was a really bad thing that happened to me. How sabotaging my eating regimen and doing harm to myself made it better, I still don't have a clue, but that's exactly what I did my whole life. We also promote the use of intermittent fasting. Now don't panic, this is an individual choice, but we teach intermittent fasting and really believe in it both for the physical and mental benefits gained. The fact that the head honcho of the anti-aging department that the National Institute for Health is one of the biggest proponents of this eating regimen makes us feel really confident about this recommendation. There is so much more science and better science backing this eating regimen than there is for grazing. The research is definitely showing that intermittent fasting is beneficial to the microbiome. But we understand if intermittent fasting is not something you feel comfortable with. It's a big change from what we have had preached to us for the past 3 to 4 decades. We just think everyone should be exposed to the research. For too long, our eating habits have been dictated to us from some really bad science. We will show you why this bad science is a major contributor to the obesity epidemic. There is a very strong argument to be made that the obesity epidemic is just a wonderful gift given to us by our government and the food industry. Think lobbying dollars. We have basically been subsidizing the sugar industry to poison us, and we continue to do so. And finally, I would like to say that I have found some of my greatest gifts when I was forced to tackle a difficulty head on. This is one of those times. Our bodies are what they are, and wishing it were different is not going to cut it. Being overweight and having to learn about the microbiome is a gift. Anyone eating a Western diet, fat or thin, would benefit from our program, but very few thin people or slightly overweight people will ever look at this information. Unfortunately for them, the microbiome influences a lot more than just being overweight. There is not a modern-day health epidemic that is not examining the influence of the microbiome. Everything from obesity to autism to Alzheimer's to all the autoimmune diseases are looking at how the microbiome influences these illnesses, as well as many of the mental illnesses, depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, and on and on. I have no doubt that the discovery surrounding the microbiome will be as important to our health as to the discovery of antibiotics was. Your extra weight does not cause these other diseases. We will clearly demonstrate this in our program. Weight gain is probably the first indicator that your body is starting to malfunction. It is a sort of leading indicator that a world of hurt is about to be laid upon you. High blood pressure, diabetes, sleep apnea, autoimmune diseases, and a host of other villains are laying in wait. These are painful, chronic diseases that destroy our health and financial well-being. If you have health insurance or Medicare, more than likely you are covered for most, if not all, of this program. Most policies have to include a preventive health care benefit. You are covered up to $1,600. Our program is exactly why this benefit is included. We are all about preventing the huge costs of these chronic diseases. If you have health insurance or Medicare, you need to take advantage of this benefit. It is why it is there. You are paying for it. You might as well use it. I know it can be difficult to gear up for another go at tackling this weight issue. I was there. I had more or less resigned myself to the fates before a coworker suggested phentermine to me. While phentermine wasn't the answer, my experience with it opened my eyes to all of this great research. You need to ask yourself, what do you truly believe? Do you really believe you can go on eating your current regimen and dodge all these chronic illnesses? If your answer is that you know that there is a good chance that you're on a path towards one or more of these chronic diseases, you need to be honest with yourself. Your health and your financial well-being will both be under attack if you continue down this road. Illnesses just destroy quality of life. Truly is an exciting time for weight loss research, and if you can muster up the gumption for one more shot at it, I think you will be justly rewarded. Yes, it can be difficult and challenging, but it is also exhilarating and rewarding. You don't have to be great at everything the first day. I stumbled a number of times, but I believed in the process, and it works. I was 54 when I started the program. Believe me, at that age, my fat had the half-life of uranium. It didn't want to go anywhere. Thought it had squatters' rights. But I kept at it, and eventually it really started to take hold. Somewhere between the second and third month, I really started to feel it. I knew I'd turned a corner. I don't think I have felt this good and this energetic since my 20s. No, it wasn't easy, but it was doable. Much more than just your weight is at stake. We will demonstrate to you within the first 10 minutes of our program that this is true. We are talking about the very foundation of your health, which means its ramifications reach throughout the entire body. There was an old commercial for a transmission company with this tagline: "You can pay me now or pay me later." The car was being towed in and was going to need a new transmission. Much more costly and aggravating than having the tranny repaired. You have the same choice here. You can either choose to get this done now and pay with the commitment to change and start reaping the benefits now and for the rest of your life, or you can pay later with the pain and cost of chronic illness. Few of us will escape the ravages of these epidemics unless we make this change. Let being overweight be a gift to you. It can be what motivates you to learn a lot of new and exciting things, and we will be there with you the whole way. There is no greater gift you can give yourself, your family, your children. It is the greatest security against ruinous health and financial devastation. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will join us on this important journey.